SynthStories starts right now.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to be a kidney donor for my brother? This is a throwaway account just in case, since a few of my relatives know my real account. Forgive the long post, but I think it's best to give some background. I, 32 female, am a savior sibling. Basically, I was made to be used as spare parts for my eldest brother, Drew, 37 male. I have another brother, Mark, who is 34, who was supposed to be the savior sibling, but due health reasons, he was not a viable donor. They ignored him most of his life. Drew was 2 years old when he was diagnosed with brain cancer. It was devastating, and finding a bone marrow donor was not going well. After a few months, they decided to have a child to get the bone marrow. That's where my second brother came. As I said previously, he was not viable due to his health, which turned into my parents having a third child, me. I became the savior sibling, starting with my umbilical cord. Then bone marrow donations since I was a toddler. If you've seen my sister's keeper, it was pretty similar situation, albeit in Spanish. I spent most of my early childhood just being exhausted. I couldn't go to kinder and early school with other children because from the donations my health was affected. My diet was tailored to be at my best state for the next donation. Around the time Drew was 14, he was declared cancer-free. There was never any acknowledgement of me donating parts of my body since birth so he could live. Only a big party and him being called a miracle by the whole family. Before, when he was sick, I didn't interact much with Drew. He was either at the hospital or in the only air-conditioned room, with his own TV and the latest game console available. He never really tried to form a relationship with either me or our other brother. Healthy Drew was a nightmare. He treated me like his personal maid, bullied our other brother, constantly hit us, push us, insult us. Think the most stereotypical bully, and he was pretty much that. Our parents didn't really care. He was the center of their world and the rest of us an afterthought. Whatever he wanted, he got. Whatever the rest of us needed, we had to figure out how to make do. Mark pretty much took the role of raising me. He started working at 15 and using what little he made so I could go on school field trips, have snacks, and he always got me a present for Christmas. That was my only present for many years. Our parents also didn't help with university, so we both made do with a local university. They were too busy paying for Drew to travel and party to even help without books. Eventually, we both got hired overseas. I lived in the US for a few years, and now I live in Spain and work as a police officer. Mark lives in Netherlands and is also in law enforcement. Our parents and Drew remain in South America. My parents call maybe once a year during my birthday. I had no contact with Drew for about a decade. Mark and I visit each other constantly, and I talk to him almost every day. That was our normal, and we all were happy with it. Until about 3 weeks ago. I got a rare off-season call from my parents. They don't call for holidays, so this meant an emergency. I answered, and my mother was crying since the moment I started the call. She told me they were at the hospital after Drew fainted during one of his many trips. Turns out all his partying and vices caught up to him, and he's gone into renal failure. He's currently on dialysis, but my old hospital records were still with my parents, and it said I was a match for him to be a kidney donor. My mom told me I needed to be there in 5 days for the surgery. She didn't ask, just told me, like when I was 4 and I cried that I didn't want to be poked and prodded, but she still told me to deal with it. I said no. Only no. She was stunned for only a minute or so before she started cursing me and telling me this is what I was made for. I just asked her to say it louder now that I had her in speaker so my whole station could hear her. That was a lie, but I knew the idea of people hearing her would make her stop. She cussed me out and ended the call. From then I've received multiple phone messages, emails, and even written mail from relatives telling me how disappointed they are of me. Some cursing me, and I mean it in the literal sense, and a few threats, legal and otherwise. I just delete and throw them away, since I am not really concerned. The issue is, from what I heard, Drew is getting worse really fast, and a part of me does feel guilty. A friend of mine who did go through with a kidney donation knows of what's going on and asked me if I could live knowing I let my brother die. I said yes, but at the same time I know that's a lie. The more logical part of me constantly reminds me I am not responsible, he is, from his bad decisions, but the emotional part that has been basically molded from years of being a spare parts child screams for me to book a ticket and head back. So, in the interest of perspective, am I the a-hole for refusing to donate to him? Edit: to clear something out, surgery would not have been in 5 days. I arrive. I wrote it to keep it short, but there's a lot of testing involved. 5 days is when the process, which is testing, health checks, etc., would begin.
Am I the a-hole for being annoyed that my husband's ex-wife still wears the wedding ring his mom gave her? Before I start, I fully recognize I may be the a-hole here and will accept my judgment. I, 42 female, have been with my husband, 51 male, for 10 years. He has 2 children from a previous marriage with his ex, 56 female, and I have 3 from my previous marriage. She has hardly spoken to or seen the kids in the last 6 years, and when she does, she makes it all about her. This is important context for later. This has basically made me everyone's mom, which is fine because I consider all 5 kids mine. We don't say my kids and my stepkids since I've basically raised all 5, which is great because I love them all to pieces. We are on good terms with bio mom and generally invite her to holidays with us because if we didn't, she wouldn't see the kids at all. That's a whole other thing for a different day. She still hugs my husband, well, tries to, but he is a master sidestepper and gets offended if we don't invite her to things like Father's Day celebrations, etc. The whole situation is weird, but like I said, that's a post for a different day. So my daughters are both in band, which is a significant time commitment for them and me. I go to every football game and every competition. I volunteer and am very active in their little community, so they always feel supported. At the beginning of band season, a schedule is released with all of the dates and times for each event, and I share it with bio mom so she knows the same things I do. If schedules change, I update her as soon as I get the info. I never want to dissuade her from coming to their events because she only sees them once every few months for an hour or so and only comes to 1 or 2 band events the entire season. When she does come, she stresses how she doesn't feel well and isn't doing great. She makes a big scene out of being exhausted all the time. When she tells the kids she will show up for things, she regularly cancels at the last minute because she has a headache, etc. Everything just always feels like it is all about her and never about anyone else. At the last band event she showed up for, she said she was feeling better than normal and didn't make herself the center of attention while our girls were out on the field, YAY, but I noticed she was wearing a pretty band with a lot of diamonds on it on her wedding ring finger. It didn't occur to me it is an actual wedding ring because my husband is not flashy and neither of us really does jewelry. Husband and I have matching, simple wedding bands, and when he proposed he used a ring my mother left to me when she passed away, which is exactly what I wanted. It has a gigantic emerald with diamonds around it, so when I do feel like being fancy, I wear it. This isn't often because let's face it, I'm basically a trash panda who digs in the dirt and works outside most of the time on our garden. Bio mom and I get along well and are on good terms, so I complimented her ring. She kept gesturing with it and it was pretty clear she wanted it noticed, and she said thanks. Ex-husband's mom Judy gave it to me when we got married. I just said, oh, that's nice. And didn't give the situation any more attention because she was watching me like a hawk and I felt like she was waiting for a big reaction. Honestly, it wouldn't irritate me if it was on any other finger, but the fact that she crammed it onto her wedding finger just irritates the fork out of me. I told my husband about it and it thinks it is weird too, but since we don't see her often, we don't feel comfortable saying anything. This was likely just an attention grab, but she has now started wearing it every time she is around me. Again, that isn't super often, but still. Am I being an for getting annoyed by this? Update. Thanks for the swift responses. Everyone gave me some great insight and advice. Thank you. I think it is less about the ring and more about being in my feelings regarding what a crummy mom she has been to the kids. So I'm going to let the ring thing go and move on with my life. Thank you everyone again.
Am I the a-hole for sleeping with my sister's boyfriend, but it's not what it sounds like? My sister, 26 female, is dating and soon to be engaged to my 25 female ex-boyfriend, 26 male. I know he's planning on proposing, or was, as I was helping him. When I was 16, I dated my sister's now boyfriend for about 6 months. It wasn't a super serious relationship, but we, as most teenagers do around that age, had sex. We did it a few times, but nothing obscene. The relationship ended amicably because we simply didn't want to date anymore. There were no harsh feelings, and we remained friends throughout high school and college. When my sister was around 23, she moved back to our hometown a year or so after college, and he was living here also. They began to spend time together, and she asked if it would bother me if they began to date. I had absolutely no problem with it and told her there were absolutely no weird feelings, and I didn't even consider him a serious relationship as it was nearly 10 years ago. They've now been dating for the past 3 years, and he plans to propose and has even asked for my help. Now for the actual conflict. About a week ago, my sister, her boyfriend, and a few of our mutual friends went out to dinner. During one of the conversations, my sister made a joke about how he better propose soon because she was starting to feel like an old maid, her words. I asked her what she meant, and she said they were both saving themselves for marriage. I asked her if she meant in just this relationship or if she was saving herself, period. She said they had both been saving themselves their whole life. I gave her boyfriend a strange look from across the table, and she caught it. She asked why I looked at him weird, and I said it was nothing and tried to move past it. She insisted I tell her why because she thought I was judging them. I confessed that we had sex in high school, although it didn't really mean anything. She got mad at him first for lying, and somehow he managed to convince her that never happened, and then she got mad at me for making stuff up and, direct quote, trying to sabotage our future marriage because you're not over him. I told her I was, in fact, completely over him and that I was also not lying, and then they both got up and left. My friends know I was telling the truth and have tried to contact her and back me up. She hasn't answered any of them and texted me the day after saying that I wouldn't be invited to the future wedding if I didn't admit to lying. I do feel really bad and wish I hadn't said anything or lied about why I looked at him, but I felt like I owed it to her because she's my sister and he was lying. Should I have handled it differently, not have told her at all, etc.? Am I the a-hole? Update. Okay, so I'm first going to start off with some context to clear up some confusion I was seeing. My sister and I grew up kind of religious with pretty old-fashioned parents. I didn't really buy into any of the religion stuff, but my sister did, not quite as much as my parents, but definitely more than me. They always told us to wait till marriage, but I clearly did not listen to them, and I guess it never occurred to me that my sister probably did. The reason she never knew about us sleeping together is because I didn't tell her because I thought she might tell my parents and I didn't want to deal with them. The reason I didn't know she was waiting is because she has always been one to keep that kind of thing to herself and is very set on having her own privacy. When I say that we weren't in a serious relationship in high school, it's because I'm a firm believer that no high school relationship is that serious. We also both knew that we weren't planning on staying together forever. We only slept together 2, maybe 3 times, which in my mind isn't very serious, even for teenagers. When my sister asked me if I would be okay with them dating, she specifically asked if I would find it weird or uncomfortable, and I told her as long as she wasn't bothered by the fact that we used to be a couple, I had no reservations. She said that she didn't mind at all, which I mistakenly took as she knew we slept together and didn't care. I'd always known him to be pretty truthful, and I never took it to mean that he actually completely lied to her. Dinner, the 3 of us were sitting at one end of the table and having the argument very quietly, so my friends didn't know what was happening until they got up and left, otherwise they would have defended me there. After I confessed that we slept together, he said something along the lines of that never happened and I don't know why she would lie. I insisted I wasn't lying, but I also wasn't trying to be hurtful. He said some BS about how maybe their talk of marriage made me jealous and stirred up old feelings. That's when she turned on me and they left. Now to the update. My sister came over this morning and we had a conversation and made amends. She told me that he had proposed a few days ago, but she hadn't told anyone because what I said was still weighing on her. She said that last night she went through his phone and found out that he has been cheating on her repeatedly for most of the relationship and that he slept with people before they were together. She confronted him this morning and they had a huge argument where he said that the reason he lied is because he knew it was important to her that they were both virgins and she wouldn't have stayed with him if she found out that he wasn't one and he really does love her and want to marry her. She thankfully did not believe him and ended it. She came straight over to apologize and hear my side of the story. I asked her why she blindly believed him and left the restaurant and wouldn't answer me, and she said that she was embarrassed because waiting till marriage has always been a big deal to her, and she didn't want to believe that he wasn't as committed to her as she was to him. I, of course, accepted her apology and we both decided to move past it and always trust each other. She has also decided that she's going to take some time to reconsider what values are the most important to her. All is now well, our ex is totally a hole, and please don't say anything rude about my sister. I love her a ton and she just had a weak moment.
Am I the a-hole for leaving my boyfriend and his sister and her kids to fly home, leaving them stranded? My boyfriend, his sister, and all our kids, 5 kids in total, all under 7, and I took a cross-country trip to visit family, about 30-hour trip. On our way back, we got stranded. His truck broke down 17 hours from home. I was told to call my mom's husband, and he talked to my mom. They said they can get me and my boys a flight home and get the others bus tickets. Side note, my boyfriend, as well as his family, hate my mom, and she feels the same. Since she offered to get them bus tickets and me a flight, made them feel some type of way. Understandable. My mom, however, says she doesn't have enough to pay for 3 adults and 3 kids, and that I had to be to work that following Monday. I am going to let it be known at this time I was the only one working out of all of us. I was working 2 jobs. My rent was $1,560. His sister relied on everyone, including me, so I had to help her as much as I can. It's not fair to her kids to go without because of their mother's choices. Then, since the trip was a last minute, neither job was aware in the proper professional way. I had to do call-ins? A lot. Then come to find out, I almost got fired from it if I didn't make it back Monday. With all that being in mind, I see where my mom is coming from. I also would feel terrible to just leave them, knowing they were not about to take my mom's offer, and I understand why. Then my boyfriend was telling me how effed up I'd be if I took the flight. Then his mom told me I was selfish if I went that route. Y'all was on the trip together. Y'all need to get back together. So I talked to my mom again. She talked about flying down to get just my boys. She talked about flying down and then getting a rental. She talked about getting us all bus tickets, but every plan had a problem. In the end, I took the flight with my boys, his nephews, grandma bought flights for one of her sons, and my boyfriend 2 days later, and he took her baby as a lap baby. And the sister and her other son got a ride from her friend in their little hip-hop hamster car. And by the time she got home, I had been home for 3 days, so we all ended up home safe and sound. It's been about 1.5 years now. I still wonder if I made the right decision, or am I the a-hole for leaving my boyfriend, his sister, and her kids stranded? Sorry for how messy everything is, from the story to the grammar. It's about 2 a.m., I'm tired, and I've been thinking about posting it for a while, so I finally got the courage up and just started typing away.
Am I the a-hole for not wanting to date an asexual person? Recently I went on 3 very good dates with a girl, female 25, I met on Hinge, who indicated that she was asexual on her profile. As asexuality is a spectrum, I wasn't sure where she fell on it, but I didn't want to bring it up unless it happened organically during conversation. Still, on our 2nd and 3rd date we slept over at each other's apartments and cuddled/kissed in a way that felt very intimate. But then this morning she texted me saying that she wanted me to know she really wasn't interested in sex. I wouldn't say that I think sex should be the most important thing in a relationship, but I know myself enough that I don't want to be in a sexless relationship, or one where I just masturbate all the time, I guess. Anyway, I very gently told her that I understand where she's coming from, but ultimately it wouldn't be a good fit. She sort of just said okay bye to that and then unmatched me on Hinge. We were texting on our phones, though. Obviously she's upset, and so am I, since I thought this could potentially be the start of something. Still, I don't want her to think I'm an asshole, and I imagine dating is hard for young asexual people living in a big city. Am I an asshole for not giving her more of a chance?
My 24 female boyfriend, 24 male, called the cops because of the content of my book. But he wants me to think it was a mistake. How do we move past this? I, 24 female, have been working on my book trilogy for years, since I was 16. The book is how I met my boyfriend, John 24 make. We met at some writing class 3 years ago and hit it off. John went to university for journalism and creative writing but is not working in either field. I never intended to make money from my works, but I do. It's not my main profession though. Context out of the way, here's where things get weird. I asked John if he could read certain chapters and give notes on things to change/adapt. My usual beta reader was unavailable. Without giving too much away, the main character gets kidnapped and experimented on. It was written to be grotesque and horrifying. And I told John this before he started reading. He said he'd be fine. Well, I find out he made a call to the local police department because the description sounded too real, and there was non-consensual stuff in the chapter, not SA. The experimentation was not consented to by the main character. He didn't tell me he made the call. I found out because an officer came to my door the next morning for a welfare check. I was humiliated. I explained everything immediately and they checked the house, saw nothing, and eventually apologized for the confusion. When I confronted John, he apologized and tried to say the story got in his head. He said it was a mistake and that I should understand how someone could get worried given the content. He wants me to just drop it. I'm so fucking embarrassed and honestly really creeped out. My writing is dark, but I've been publishing for years and he's read my material before. This was honestly not even the darkest, most fucked up thing I've written. I don't know if this is something we can work through or if this is a sign of a deeper issue. I genuinely can't imagine why he'd call the cops if he was so disturbed but also stay at my place and be all lovey-cuddly. Could this be an honest-to-God mistake? And how do we move forward? Edit. When I say, he made a mistake, I'm referring to calling the police as a misjudgment on his end. Not that he literally didn't mean to call the police.
Am I the a-hole for telling my husband that I am going back on our agreement and I don't care if he cries about it? My husband and I, both 32, have been together since we were 19. Our entire relationship feels like it just blew up in my face, basically, and I can't tell if I am overreacting. So, we both wanted one child and we have planned this for years. We wanted everything perfect first. The home, the careers, the savings, the investments, the nest egg, etc., 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 because we both knew from very early on that once we had a baby, I would be staying home full-time and raising our child. His brother's life was unfortunately cut short by a daycare worker when he was just 5 months old, back in 2017. So daycare wasn't an option basically, and we need to make sure our ducks were in a row so I could stay home and be a full-time parent. 2 years ago we were sitting on $500,000 in investments, a few nest eggs in different types of savings and bonds accounts. We bought the house, we even bought a damn boat. Everything we planned for fell into place, finally, and we started trying for a baby. We now have a perfect 4-week-old daughter. I have been out of work since I was 5 months pregnant, due to placenta abruption, but otherwise everything went fine. She's perfectly healthy, was a good weight, and I bounced back from the delivery fairly quickly because of how much of a support system my husband was. He did more than his fair share, while still working full-time. Which is partially why I cannot tell if I am being dramatic or if this is hormones or PPD or whatever. Like I am legitimately livid. So, basically, earlier this afternoon I get a phone call from DHHS to go over health insurance options and whether or not the baby is eligible for state insurance based off our income. I had already given DHHS all of our info, social security numbers, DOB, etc., when they called yesterday and was just waiting for all our info and assets to be pulled. Anyways, She calls and says we aren't eligible because my husband makes too much money and that we will need to add her to our private insurance. Absolutely no problem at all. I kind of figured that anyways. But then she offhandedly mentions that my husband is making $10,920 monthly gross and that the cutoff for state insurance is $7,830 monthly gross. Well, here's the issue. For months my husband has been telling me that he only makes $6,000 a month after taxes. So I get off the phone and I log into my husband's computer and into his banking, and sure enough, his monthly take-home is bordering around $8,500. He is transferring everything over $6,000 into an account I didn't even know existed. So, I call him out on it and he breaks down and tells me that he just wanted something that was only his. Please keep in mind that all of my money has always gone into our joint account that he uses on a daily basis. So he is hiding money from me so he can have his own money, while plugging away at mine. Over $45,000 he has sitting in that account. While telling me last week that we couldn't have steak for dinner because spending $38 on 2 steaks was a waste of money. So, I told him I am putting the baby in daycare and going back to work because obviously I need to safeguard myself if he is hiding away money. Something feels off about it, ick. He instantly started crying, see above, daycare trauma, but I truly just don't trust him financially anymore. I no longer feel secure here. I said I changed my mind and I don't care if he cries about it. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the asshole for spending my life savings, $7,200, on an ass job plastic surgery when my daughter needed brand new school supplies? 33-year-old here for reference. Last year, my longtime boyfriend dumped me. We have a 7-year-old child together, and I began making the circuit on the bar scene. I had some casual hookups, but no one who seemed like marriage material seemed to be too interested, and I was also striking out on all the dating apps. After months of this, I began to grow disheartened and lose confidence, which is when I started to research augmenting my buttocks. I'm not a supermodel or anything, but I like to think I'm decently attractive. However, my backside has always been the part of my body I am most self-conscious about. I had a consultation with the doctor, we went over the operation, and I decided to have a BBL as well as 1,100 cubic centimeters implants placed overinflated to 1150, which is a standard industry practice for those who don't know. The final cost everything included was to be about $7,200, which was all of the funds in my savings, plus dipping into my checking for a few hundred, which isn't a huge deal for me. I had to make some spending adjustments, cancel a few subscriptions, and overall be a lot more financially cautious, but my daughter wouldn't go hungry or without heat. The surgery went off without a hitch, and I received the augmentation. Fast forward about 6 weeks, and I am still healing but mostly healed. Last week, my daughter came home from school with a note from her teacher saying that her class is collecting school supplies, such as markers, glue sticks, tissues, etc. There was a laundry list of supplies of about 20 items. I did the math, and the supplies would come out to around $65. The note said each student was required to bring these supplies, in which really didn't sit right with me, especially because I bought most of these supplies for my daughter at the start of the year. I understand the concept of community supplies, or donating supplies for kids in financially difficult situations, but the requirement just really ticked me the wrong way. I told my daughter that we couldn't afford that this month, and I would talk to her teacher about it. I made sure to make it clear that my daughter wouldn't get in trouble for this, and that I would handle it with her teacher. And yes, spending this extra $65 would place significant financial burden on us for this month's food budget. Fast forward to yesterday, and Grandma, my mom, come over and is watching with my daughter while I get some chores done. I have fallen a bit behind on chores from resting up from the operation. My mom said she was taking my daughter to the store, and I said that was fine. They came back an hour later with 2 bags full of school supplies and my daughter wearing a brand new backpack. I was understandably a bit angry and confused and privately talked to my mom in the other room. For background, I always give my mom my debit card when she goes to the store to buy groceries for my house because she is on a tight budget and can only maintain herself. I figured she was going to the store to buy food for my daughter for the rest of the week, which she does often, which is why I didn't think anything of it. Turns out my mom saw the note from school and took my daughter out to get the items using my card. I explained to my mom that I told my daughter that we couldn't afford to contribute to the supplies. My mom said that my daughter told her about what I said, but she decided to take her out anyway. She said it was ridiculous that I spent so much money on my augmentation and that it wasn't fair to send my daughter to school as the only one without contributing supplies. She also said my daughter's been using the same backpack for over 3 years and it's stained and torn and I should be ashamed for not buying her a new one. I was honestly pretty pissed at her accusations and told her that how I spend my savings is none of her damn business. I told her that my daughter had her own perfectly good school supplies and that a 7-year-old doesn't need a brand new backpack every year or two, especially because I know she is just going to get it dirty with goldfish dust and dirt at school. Her backpack was fine and just had some normal wear and tear. My mom told me I need to get my priorities straight and that I'm not setting a good example as a mother. I told her that the money is already spent and we are already committed to a tighter budget for the next months, but that my daughter wouldn't want for anything and that our budget is absolutely none of her damn business. I've been thinking about this all day and am getting more flustered and angry the more I think. So am I the Aholi or is my mom overreacting and getting involved in something that's not her business? Update, 27 days later. So it's been a month since I last posted. Thank you all for your replies to my last post. Despite the many toxic commenters and miserable people spewing vile hate, there were some constructive comments, and I want to thank those commenters for that. The feedback as well as some talks with my mother have given me a lot to think about, and I have come to the conclusion that the operation was a selfish mistake, and I regret it. I'm up late at night imagining how my daughter will view this incident once she gets a little older, and the things she will think. My implants will serve as a constant reminder to my daughter of the mistakes I made. They will also be a reminder to myself of my guilt and my mistakes. That is why I have decided to remove my implants. I had spoken to a doctor about the costs and risks associated with the removal procedure once I was sure it was the right decision. It was explained to me that for the removal to be as safe and successful as it can possibly be, the sutures have to completely heal before he can go back in and remove the implants. This will minimize scarring as well as risks of infection or similar complications following the procedure. The cost of the operation will be in the ballpark of $4,500, including anesthesia and all. I paid a deposit for the operation on a credit card, knowing full well that I would have no problem making the payments and paying it off. My implants have fully healed and all but fully dropped, and I am scheduled to receive the operation in 2 weeks. In this time of reflection, I also have been dating a wonderful man who loves me, implants or not, and we are approaching our 1-month anniversary. I have had some discussions with my daughter following my last post and explained to her how much I love her and that nothing is more important to me than her. My relationship with my mom is still a little rocky, but I think she is just happy I am getting the implants removed. She is set to drive me to my operation and has not made any more hateful comments since I told her of my decision to remove them. I am hoping to repair this relationship as time goes on. My daughter is young enough that she won't remember this episode, and it will hopefully be nothing more than a bad memory for me a few months down the line. Thank you to those who took the time to read and be constructive, not hateful. Have a nice week.
Am I the a-hole for not canceling my vacation and reporting a coworker for harassment? At my job, you can only roll over 250 vacation hours. So, come December 31st, if you have over 250 hours, you lose them. They don't pay it out. Every year, my husband and I take several longish, 10 to 11 days, scheduled vacations. Visiting a relative in Florida, family reunion wherever it's being hosted, anniversary trip each fall, etc. I always end up having over 250 hours even though we take those trips. I usually take between the 15th to 18th of Dec through the 5th or 6th of Jan off. I have been doing this for 9 years, and it's approved. We hired Haley in October. She has made it clear that her son is her life. That's well and fine. I don't care one way or another. Haley came to my desk on Monday and asked me if I would reconsider my time off in December. When I asked why, she said that she had requested some time off to travel with her son for the holidays to see her family, but it was denied because I'm off. I just said no, sorry, and turned back around. That afternoon, Haley sent me an email with an itemized timeline of all the time off I had taken this year. Our team has a shared calendar so we can know when the other are out of office, and asked to please reconsider, and she CC'd our boss. I will be honest, this severely pissed me off. I don't butt into anyone else's business ever. I don't care if I see your ass parked on the 50-yard line at the Eagles game the same day you call in sick. Go Birds! As long as I'm not having to do your work, I do not care. I emailed back immediately saying that I don't appreciate her combing through my vacation time and that my answer was still no, and I did not want to discuss the matter further. Yesterday morning, I was called into a meeting by my boss Lisa and Haley. Lisa jumped right in saying that she saw Haley's email and my response and Haley wanted to meet. I told Haley and Lisa both, I will not be canceling my vacation. Haley starts raising her voice about how my child-free traveling should take a backseat to working-class mothers and their kids. She claimed that I hate kids from my remarks in the workplace, and she felt I was retaliating for the cause. Both Lisa and I were shocked at the accusation. I am child-free by choice. My husband and I have lots of nieces and nephews as well as godchildren, and we are happy. We do not hate kids. Lisa knows this as well. We have worked together in total for about 15 years. I told Haley that she's making a false accusation and this was now an HR matter. I got up and left the meeting even though Lisa asked me to stay. About a half hour later, I got another email from Haley, but she was informing me she was asking Lisa to make the call to revoke my PTO and be fair to others on our team. Then, I overheard her telling a team member I'm not letting her take time off because I hate kids and I'm part of the hateful child-free community. That was the last straw for me. I attached both of her emails and wrote an email to HR about her harassing and slandering me. I gave the name of the coworker she was talking to and the conversation context as well. I hit send and forwarded it to my boss afterwards so she knew was what going on. About an hour ago, I found out that Haley has a meeting with HR on Friday and she will more than likely be fired. The coworker she complained to told me that he felt I overreacted and that she was just venting about finding childcare for the holidays because of work and I should have sat down to talk about it more. A friend who is also a colleague, who told me about the meeting, said she thought I let my anger get the best of me and now Haley may lose her job when she's just a stressed out and overly tired mother having a bad day. I will admit I used the buzzwords of harassment and slander to get my point across, but it had been 2 days of an asked and answered conversation and I was done with it. So, am I the a-hole for reporting her over this incident? P.S. I am not the only one off. We are a team of 5 people and 2 other coworkers are off during the time she wants, but they have children. And the remarks? She asked me when she started why I don't want kids and I said I like coming home to clean and quiet house. That's the extent of the remarks. Edit. I am in the US, Midwest, and my company is huge on work-life balance due to burnout in our field. You're eligible to use your PTO after 30 days and it accrues fast. After looking, Haley is eligible for 52 hours of PTO to date. Edit 2. A lot of questions about my vacation time. LOL. During COVID, my company allowed us all to roll over all PTO from 2020 to 2022 because of the no travel stuff happening. In 2023, they moved the bar from 150 hours, 4-ish weeks, up to 250, 6-ish weeks, rollover because a lot of people complained about losing a lot of time when they didn't travel. You were not required to bank your time. Some people took there and traveled. We took the pandemic seriously and did not travel at all in 2020 to mid-2021, and then we stayed home most of the first half of 2022 as well and started traveling again in October of 2022. So I banked my 250, and because I'm still acquiring, I have a lot of hours built up. We do snow activities that are free in the winter, so we barely travel and we don't start traveling until May of each year, and by that time, I've accrued more time. Hope this helps. LOL.
Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's best friend he let himself go after he wouldn't stop teasing me about my crush on him in high school? Original post, November 16th, 2025. Short version for my low attention span readers, lol. My husband, 27, his best friend, 27, and I, 27, all went to the same high school. Back then, I had a crush on my husband's friend, so I originally befriended my husband to get closer to him. After trying for a while, I eventually gave up because the friend got a girlfriend. Meanwhile, my husband and I became really close and eventually started dating. A few years later, we got married. My husband is still very close with his best friend, and we all hang out at our place from time to time. The problem is that his friend constantly brings up our high school days and mentions how I used to like him. I told him many times to stop, but he never listened. One night after a few drinks, I finally got the courage to call him out. I told him it didn't matter that I used to like him because he let himself go and I don't find him attractive anymore. He got angry, and now my husband is torn. Detailed version. I met my husband in high school, back when I didn't think much of myself. We had a biology class together and sat next to each other. I thought he was cute, but I didn't pay much attention to him until I found out he was close friends with the guy I had a crush on, who I'll call Jared. After that, I started talking to my husband more, and because he's genuinely kind, he welcomed it. Eventually, we became close enough to hang out outside of class, and through him, I got to know Jared and the rest of their friend group. I tried for a long time to get Jared's attention, but he never showed any interest. When he got a girlfriend, I was crushed. My husband comforted me and told me I was beautiful and that Jared just didn't see it. Not long after, my husband confessed his feelings. Being a stupid teenage girl, I agreed to date him, even though I still had leftover feelings for Jared, mostly because I wanted to feel wanted. But after a few months, Jared became single again, and I realized I didn't care the way I once did. That's when I knew I truly loved my husband, and only my husband. Years passed, and Jared went through a few relationships. His last breakup hit him hard. Sadly, his girlfriend cheated, and when that happened, he started coming over a lot to vent. Over time, he changed from the confident and attractive guy I once liked to someone more withdrawn, chubbier, and honestly not taking good care of himself. That's when the teasing about high school started. At first, it was just him complaining about how he used to look, but then he kept bringing up how obsessed I was with him. I ignored it because I figured he was just reminiscing on his old days, but it didn't stop. Yesterday night, he came over again and went on the same rant about how popular he used to be. Then he threw in another comment about how I was so in love with him back then, and even added, "I knew you liked me, but you were not someone I'd ever consider being with in high school. No offense." It was insulting, and even my husband looked uncomfortable. I was tipsy and fed up, so I snapped and said, "It doesn't matter, because you don't even look as good as you did in high school. I don't care if I was never your type, because you're definitely not mine anymore." He looked shocked, my husband gasped, and I immediately felt overwhelmed and apologized. Jared got up to leave, but he was too drunk to drive, so my husband took him to our guest room while I stayed downstairs in shock. We barely spoke the rest of the night. The next morning, Jared left, and my husband finally talked to me. He understands why I was upset, but he thinks it was wrong to say something so harsh when Jared is clearly depressed and struggling with his weight. I get that, but I'm still angry that Jared kept pushing the same hurtful comments over and over. It feels like he is bragging about how I used to like him, and it rubs me the wrong way. So Reddit, be honest but not brutal. Am I the a-hole? Side note, yes, this is real. Yes, this is a throwaway account. Yes, I know it's random to be writing this at 2 a.m., but I'm very conflicted at the moment. Also, hopefully the formatting is easy to read and not annoying. I tried my best, lol. Update number 1, November 16th, 2025, same day, 12 hours later. Hey peps. I woke up today to a lot of comments, and even though it was a bit overwhelming, I read all of them, and I mean all. A lot of people had negative things to say about my husband, which honestly hurt because I didn't think I painted him in a bad light. Somehow, he is being attacked more than Jared is. Before I get into the mini update, I've seen other posters add context and respond to common comments, so I'm going to do the same. This will be long. Bear with me, guys. My husband is not a terrible person. I still love him despite everything I mentioned and despite what I'm going to mention in the update. He is not weak or a beta, like some people said. He just struggles to confront situations like this directly. Jared has been his best friend since 5th grade. That is not a bond that breaks easily. They went to the same elementary school, high school, and university. They are basically brothers. My husband is not sucking up to Jared because he thinks Jared is better than him. If Jared weren't in such a low place, my husband would have been much harsher. I also don't think my husband is perfect. He has done messed up things in the past, but so have I, and I believe people can change. I do not have feelings for Jared. That ended years ago. And no, if Jared had stayed in shape, I still wouldn't have feelings for him. I stopped liking him during our first year of university. We went to the same school, and he still looked the same as he did in high school, so it wasn't his appearance that changed things. He broke up with his girlfriend, and I realized I didn't care anymore. The old me would have been excited and tried to shoot my shot, but instead I felt nothing. I love my husband, and only my husband. Jared is not an option for me in any way. Some people suggested Jared might have feelings for me, which is possible. He has made comments about my appearance before. I worked hard to glow up during my final year of high school because I wanted to improve myself before university. When my husband and I met up with Jared for the first time after that, Jared told me I looked very different. He said it as a compliment. My husband agreed because he thought Jared was just stating the obvious, not flirting. Divorce is not an option for me. I am very religious, and I take my vows seriously. They are not something I would throw away over this situation. Divorce is not always the solution. So, before you comment divorce, remember that we are real people who have real history, and it is a lot harder to divorce someone than you think it is. Update. I did not show my husband the post, even though many people suggested it. A lot of the comments felt sexist and harsh toward him, and I don't want to expose him to that. But after reading everything, I did want to talk to him about his inability to stand up for me. He told me he didn't want to isolate Jared right now. I didn't know this before. But according to my husband, Jared became a bit suicidal after the breakup with his girlfriend, and my husband was the only one who could pull him out of that downward spiral. I felt sympathy for Jared, and I told my husband that. But after reading so many comments, I realized that doesn't excuse Jared's behavior, so I pushed for more answers. I also asked my husband if it made him uncomfortable when Jared constantly brought up high school. My husband paused, and I immediately knew he was holding something back. I kept pushing until he finally told me something I never thought I would hear. During our first year of university, Jared started mentioning me more during private conversations with my husband. My husband felt proud of dating me and kept saying things like he had invested in me. That already hurt, but it got worse. He admitted that he used to brag about my body and looks to Jared, showing him pictures of me dressed up for date nights. Then it escalated. Jared ended up seeing a picture of me with no clothes on, something meant only for my husband. According to him, it was an accident because he was scrolling through his photo album and the picture popped up. My husband said that when Jared started bringing up high school, he was scared Jared might bring up what happened in university and that I would be furious. I am disgusted knowing Jared has seen me like that. It makes all of his comments about me so much worse. My husband is at work right now, which is why I have time to write this. I'm still processing everything, and I feel completely lost. I didn't want him to be late for work, so we weren't able to talk much. Knowing him, he is probably at work stressing right now about me knowing the truth. If it really was an accident, I feel like I can't be completely mad, but it still feels awful knowing my photos were shown without my consent. I feel betrayed, even if I don't think my husband meant for that picture to be seen. I'm still angry that he bragged about me like I was some new sports car he got a great deal on. I know this is going to make a lot of people hate him even more, but I genuinely don't think he intended for any of this to happen. I know this isn't the update most people expected. I still need to talk to my husband when he gets back from work, and I'm hoping I can invite Jared over later today for a conversation. I will try to update as soon as I can because I hate when updates take so long. I appreciate all the comments that were respectful toward me and my husband, but I do understand the outrage. Thanks for reading this long update, and thank you to everyone who commented on the original post. Edit. Made a comment earlier that wasn't getting noticed and got buried. So I decided to add an edit here. I won't post an update until tomorrow, when I have had time to gather my thoughts. I have spoken to my husband since the update, and let's just say things are not going great. Just because I want to clear things up, I'll write it here. When I say I'm religious, I mean I am Christian. Divorce is frowned upon in my faith because it is believed you should never marry someone you aren't completely sure about. This is not saying I wouldn't divorce him if he did something extreme like cheating or abuse. It is just acknowledging the importance of commitment in a marriage. The people hating on my religion and saying I'm brainwashed are being incredibly irrational. You have clearly jumped to conclusions based on your own biases about certain religions. I apologize if it sounds like I'm excusing my husband's behavior. I absolutely think what he did was wrong. And today we discussed a few things related to his spineless behavior. I won't talk much about what we discussed until the update because he has decided to have a one-on-one conversation with Jared. I'd rather wait until then to piece everything together meaningfully. My husband will be made aware of this thread because I believe I may have been coddling him too much. I will probably show him after posting this comment, and if all goes well, I will try my best to update tomorrow when he speaks to Jared. I repeat that my husband is not a misogynist. Although some of you think I am a typical stay-at-home trophy wife, I am actually a business owner, which allows me to work from home. Even though my husband makes more than I do, he does not dictate our finances or act like the man of the house or anything like that. Please understand this. I would never date a misogynist, let alone marry one. My husband is not the type to reduce women to their bodies, despite some of you believing I'm his property. I fear some of you have lost the plot. My husband is not the type to hide spicy folders. Just last year, we made a folder of our spicy content and put a password on it. He never used to do that. I recently asked him to do it to protect our privacy, since he doesn't let anyone near his phone anyway. I genuinely believe he was scrolling through pictures of me in his gallery, and the photo popped up. Although one commenter made a good point about why he made such a big deal about it, that is the only thing making me question the situation. I want to thank the people who were extra harsh, because it was definitely a wake-up call, even though seeing all the negative comments was starting to get to me. I do believe you all have the best intentions, and I truly appreciate how people from different countries can come together to talk some sense into me despite never meeting me in person. I might sound naive or stupid to some of you, but it is much harder to notice red flags when you are the one experiencing them. Finally, I will not be divorcing my husband. I've seen people mention therapy, and I think that is justified. I'd rather talk things out on our own first, since I'm not great at confessing my feelings to real-life people in person, especially when their job is to judge you. I believe my husband can learn from his mistakes and change, just like I have in the past. Update number 2, November 18th, 2025. 2 days later. Okay, this is going to be an overload of information, so if you have a short attention span, you might want to skip this one. First, I want to thank everyone for the kind and actually helpful messages. I also really appreciate the comments that are not being rude and genuinely want to help in my situation. I also found out today that my post was shared on some YouTube videos, and the comments there were constructive. So thanks if you were some of the people who commented on those posts. Now let's just dive straight into the update, as there is a lot to unpack. Update. Before I sat down with my husband, I called Jared. I know many of you said not to, but I followed a Redditor's plan. Thank you to the person who messaged me this idea. It worked. The plan was to accuse Jared of taking my husband's phone back in university to look for my spicy photos, hoping he would panic and reveal the truth. If he denied everything, I would say my husband told me he did it, so Jared would not feel the need to protect him. I know this was extreme, but so many comments insisted my husband was lying, and it genuinely made me rethink my marriage. A part of me still hoped it was not true, which is why I am relieved I finally know what happened. The call with Jared went like this. I told him I knew what he did in university. He was confused at first, then went silent, then insisted he never looked for nudes. He admitted he scrolled through my husband's photos of me, only because my husband gave him the phone, which matched the bragging story. He also saw a nude by accident. He said he immediately showed my husband and smirked because he thought I looked hot, and he thought my husband did a good job. My husband apparently grabbed the phone and begged him not to tell me. This matched what my husband told me later, except he left out the smirk. After the call, Jared called my husband. I was angry at first, thinking they planned a story, but then realized my husband would not have told me about the call if he wanted to lie. I showed him the Reddit thread. He was upset I posted about our situation and worried Jared might see it. But he calmed down when I explained I changed names and details. When he started reading comments, he became defensive and began spiraling, asking why I would entertain them. He raised his voice until I said maybe they were right and maybe we should not be together. That snapped him out of it. He apologized, begged me not to leave, and kept reading. He agreed with some comments defending him and even thanked me for defending him in my updates. He told me through tears that he did not want to lose me. He talked about loving me, trying to make me feel secure, and never wanting to dehumanize me. He said he was not bragging about my body in the way I described. He felt I made him look bad and pointed out that women brag about their partners being handsome and fit all the time, and it is seen as normal. Yet when he did it, it was seen as creepy. I understood the double standard. When I asked why he did not defend me when Jared made those comments, he said he was sorry and saw it as an attack on himself rather than me. He said he let it slide because Jared was depressed and he did not want to confront him. He thought my reaction was me defending him and felt I went too far, but said he appreciated it and was only scared Jared might mention the nude photos out of spite. I told him I reacted because I felt attacked. He then said he asked Jared to apologize to me when he comes over tomorrow because he could see how upset I was. I was surprised and annoyed because even though I was okay calling Jared, I did not want him in our home yet. I made notes about things to talk about, including the "I invested in you" comment. He said it was a joke and that he was attracted to me in high school, but thinks I look even better now. It still made me feel bad, and he could tell, which led him to kiss me and tell me I am beautiful. I tried not to cave in emotionally, so I pushed him back and continued. I also brought up his friendship with Jared. He admitted he has always been insecure about my past crush on Jared, but thought I would see him as jealous if he cut Jared off, especially since I stayed friends with him after we got together. After we married, and Jared let himself go, he no longer saw him as a threat. He told me that if I wanted him to cut off Jared, he would. He said our relationship mattered more than his friendship and that although he would be upset, he would choose me. I said I was not sure what to do with that yet. I reassured him that I only love him, not Jared. I do want to clarify that I never felt unsafe around Jared, but I disliked the things he said about me. Now that I know the truth, things feel different. Should I make him cut Jared off? My husband promised to do anything to make things right, and I believe him. I am not divorcing him. He loves me and is willing to change, but I am considering therapy for us or for myself. I am very grateful for everyone who reached out and replied to my post. I'm not sure another update is needed, but if you want to know what happens with Jared, I can update. I will try to respond to comments in the meantime. Thank you, everyone. Update number 3. November 27th, 2025, 9 days later from the previous update. So it's been a while. I have been crying nonstop all week, and I just couldn't bring myself to make another update. I honestly forgot about my post until I got on my laptop and seen the notifications for Reddit, but I had a couple of DMs from some kind people checking up on me, and I really appreciate you all. I'm going through a dark time, and kind messages truly are amazing. There is so much to unpack, and I honestly don't think anyone could predict what I'm about to say. Sorry if this is complete nonsense. I am not in the mood to edit this fully. Update. So after our talk, I decided to forgive him, as I thought maybe we could work things out, and I truly thought he loved me. We went back to normal after that. I was still on the fence about whether he should cut Jared off or not. But eventually, the comments got to me, and I told him to cut him off. I thought he would be upset. but would eventually move on from it. Nope. He immediately got defensive again. He told me that Jared was like his brother and he couldn't leave him in his time of need. Then he promised that we would keep a little distance from him, but continued saying that we shouldn't cut him off. I got annoyed and yelled, "It's like you're in love with him. You should always pick your wife over your friend." He got quiet. I thought he was silent because I yelled and snapped at him, but I was so wrong. He started yelling at me, in my face, which was the first time I have ever felt unsafe around him. I was sure he would hit me, but he thankfully didn't. He kept saying slurs and keep saying I'm not fin gay. I made the dumb mistake of provoking him by saying, "You definitely are." I will take accountability for this. I definitely shouldn't have said this. He snapped, and I could see something inside of him break. He started yelling at me to shut the F up. He was getting so angry that he was starting to develop tears in his eyes. At first I was scared, but then I kind of got confused. Why is he so offended, I thought. And then it dawned on me, I've seen so many movies about this exact situation. Gay Christian men marrying women to conceal the truth about their sexuality. I didn't want it to be true. I thought maybe I was overthinking. I do this a lot. I then asked him straight up, "Are you gay?" He looked terrified, like actually terrified. I kind of got worried he was going to pass out. I asked him again, and he started crying. I have never seen him cry this hard before. I had never made him feel like he could not come to me about big things like this. He has cried on me before, and I always comforted him because I don't believe men should bottle up their emotions. So I was confused on why he would hide something so crazy from me. I knew I couldn't freak out on him, or I would never know the truth. So despite every fiber of my body being paralyzed with disgust for his behavior and now possible lies, I calmed myself down and sat with him. He was a lot more compliant than I thought he would be. He sat with me still visibly crying and spilled everything. Apparently he knew he was gay since high school, although according to him, he would tell himself he was just bisexual because he liked me as a person and liked dating me. He grew up Catholic, and because of that, he has very traditional Catholic parents who are strict about their faith. His mother is so strict that she at first didn't want him to marry me because I was Christian and not Catholic. He has a brother who also a dedicated Catholic, Thad, and so he was surrounded by very religious people. According to my husband, he told his brother in senior year that he was bisexual, and his brother struck him and told him to change his feelings or else he would tell their parents. My husband was traumatized and never told anyone else. He then in university realized he loved me, but he wasn't sexually attracted to me. According to him, he would sleep with me and be disgusted with himself after. This broke me. I thought that was bad. But he delivered the final blow by telling me he was in love with Jared. He is in love with his fucking best friend. We were chasing the same fucking guy. I couldn't take it. I just slapped him across his face and told him we were done. He didn't fight me on it. He just stood there defeated. I couldn't even look at him. All my years with him were a performance for his stupid family. I couldn't stop crying, and soon I started having a panic attack. He quickly rushed to help me. And as much as I hate to say it, he was able to calm me down for a bit. And after getting me water and making me some food, he went to bed. I stayed downstairs. I couldn't go upstairs and face him. I don't know why he dated me in the first place or went through with our marriage. I feel like he was probably lying about the nudes and wanted Jared to see them to prove that he liked women. I hate that I was being used to make him feel more masculine. I don't know how to possibly move on from this. Divorcing him would mean that everything we had built together would have been for nothing. I know I have to leave him, but I can't help but reminisce on the good times we had together. I feel like shit every day now. He left to stay with a friend. I'm sure he's with Jared, because of course he is. I bet he didn't tell him either. I want to go over to Jared's place and tell him everything's so bad and expose my husband for the shitty things he's done, but at the same time, I do know how this would destroy him completely. I haven't told anyone about this, not even my sister. My husband had begged me to not tell anyone yet. I want to say something, anything, to anyone who would listen, but I know the absolute chaos it would cause for him and his extremely homophobic family. I know I can live with this anymore. I feel like I just want to tell someone. He still texts me every day checking up on me. I don't respond. He would order Uber Eats to our door with my favorites foods, and it feels like torture. I sometimes find myself texting him that I missed him and then quickly deleting it. I'm so alone and miserable. I don't know what to do. I don't think he'll update again. I don't know if there's anything left to say. I'm just tired and sad. Please, please, please take it easy on me. I will just delete this post if I get too much hate because I cannot handle that right now.
Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe.